All right. Second question, which I think is really important, particularly if you're watching this show. You're probably one of us. I will not start singing. How do I manage my solopreneurship? The fact is that for myself and for a lot of us, particularly nowadays, when I first started solopreneurship a handful of years ago, there weren't as many of us. Now it's like everybody and their mom, including my mom, has their business. And so now we're dealing with, on a mass scale, how do we deal with loneliness? Shout out to the Surgeon General who talked about loneliness being epidemic. Um, I did an app called Cuddler. That was my startup that I sold a handful of years ago. And that was when around the time those studies first started to come out. So there is a level of loneliness and challenges with being independent and being on your own. There's the stability aspect of it because you don't necessarily have someone to lean on. Again, the social aspect of it, there's so many different details to it. So here's a couple tools that will help you kind of get on your way and make sure that you're good enough coming year, even stronger as far as your solopreneurship. If you're a solopreneur, go ahead and jump in the comments. Let me know the stuff that you guys are dealing with. I think it's worth talking about. One of my favorite books, Company of One by Paul Jarvis. Cleaned up my office, but not 100% obviously. Company of one of my favorite books. I'm doing all Damon's favorites today. Make sure you get the cover there. There we go. Beautiful cover. Shout out to Paul. I met him a handful of years ago while I was doing a lot more columns with me. I still buy column, but I'm not as active. And we got a chance to connect. And fantastic guy. The subtitle says it all. While staying small is the next big thing for business. This book probably came out. Well, why am I guessing? I don't know. How about I look at this? You would think I wouldn't have published so many books. I'm like, oh yeah, 2019, right before the pandemic. Paul's timing was fantastic. Shout out to you, Paul. Hope you're doing well. Paul's book is basically saying you actually don't need to scale. Or the way I like to look at it, your version of scaling might not include hiring a bunch of people and having a whole bunch more overhead. He was talking about like not having an office and being remote. And again, remember, this is 2019 when it came out. If you're familiar with books, they usually take a couple of years. So he was actually writing this book in 2017, 2018. So yeah, being remote, like I don't even think even if the word hybrid, aside from if you're talking about biology or something, the word hybrid, or maybe cars, but the word hybrid wasn't used in regards to the workplace. But it would be like, oh, you can work from home one day a week. You got a day off. That's the terminology. He was bringing all this stuff in again 4 or 5, and with the writing 6 years ago. So if you're looking to make a bigger impact with your business, you don't necessarily need to get bigger. And in fact, there's challenges and deficits, for lack of a better term, if you do decide to scale, physically scale. Number one, you need to deal with employees and payroll. So if you're having a lean month, you can't be that lean because you have people depending on you. It's not just you. It's also the aspect of management, so managing other people. The third thing, which I keep emphasizing, and one of the reasons why a lot of us are solopreneurs, is the overhead. I don't have a whole lot of overhead, even with the show, and right now 18,000 of y'all that are tuning in, which I appreciate. The overhead hasn't really changed. I got a little bit of a better light, and I got some new shirts. That's about it. There's not a whole lot of overhead, as opposed to if I turn it into a production. Shout out to those of y'all who actually have TV productions. I know some of y'all. Then it's like you got staff, you have office space, you have a warehouse you're filming in. I don't have any of that. This is my office. As soon as I'm done with this TV show, then I'm going to be working with one of my clients right here. Like it's not a stretch for me. He talks about or extols, I love that word. He extols the value in that, and that psychologically, and that's why this book really touched me. Psychologically, he gives us permission to be small. And so the assumption is, oh, okay, I hired my first employee, or, I got office space. I'm here in Las Vegas. I got office space off the strip. Then the view is that, oh, I'm balling. But I could ball right here in my office. Weird bird, but you hear what I'm saying. there's a way that you can scale and make an impact. And sometimes the biggest impact you can make and the way that you can stay in the game the longest is by staying small. Keep that in mind. Absolutely fantastic book. Highly recommend it. Shout out to Paul. It's one of those books where I'm like, it's like he read my mind. And it's fantastic, fantastic read. If you're going to be a solopreneur, way to move product. That product, in my case, could be the complete bring your word selection. I was just recently on the road, and you have to be able to, to sell your books on the road. Even if you're working with traditional publishers, there's ways that you can work with them and do that. If you have if you're selling blankets, even if you're selling goods, like I'm a business coach. Again, all my links are below. So I do have some space over on my roster. I'm a business coach, and so I do it for money. Like it's not free, and so I need some way for people like yourself to pay me if we decide to coach together. Like you need some way to handle those transactions. You don't have that backing or that infrastructure to say, oh, okay, I'm going to send it to, Jody in accounts payable. We don't have an accounts payable. We are the accounts payable, right? We don't have a manager. We are the manager. Square is a great way to do that. You guys have probably heard of it if you've been in this space, or you, particularly nowadays, you definitely went to a restaurant, went to particularly some of the indie, the place you see like at the farmers market and stuff. They'll have it real quick. Square is an opportunity for you to get transactions done independently. They take a small fee off the top. I think as of this recording, I want to say it's just under 3%. I want to say 2.9%, but it fluctuates. But that allows you to not just have the cash, which I'm lucky enough to have cash on hand, not only to take the cash from folks, and of course give them change or whatever, which is a whole another maze, but also to take their credit card. And that's online as well. For several years, Square was the main way that I actually brought in money for my businesses, which I'm super thankful, particularly when I started doing independent books. Again, it was 7 years ago with the Bike to Entrepreneur, my first major independent book, physical book. And I was selling those via Square, but that was how I did things. Here's a link to Square. This will actually give you a discount. It's a referral link, so I think I get a credit or something too, but it's going to be a better credit for y'all than if you go directly to square.com or whatever, squareup.com, whatever the website is. Basically, you're telling them Damon sent you, and they'll go ahead and set you up. It's pretty straightforward to do it. You can do it online, you get that straight, and then you can actually get the physical equipment so that you can do those transactions. But if you did not want to do the physical equipment, which I didn't know for a little while, if you did not want to do the physical equipment, like the little Square readers, which I'll show in a moment, you can actually go to download the Square app. You can download the Square app and then just punch in the person's credit card or debit card number, and then it'll do the transaction as long as you have a wireless, a cell phone connection. And we're talking Android and iPhone. I remember getting involved with Square back when I was in Silicon Valley. That was before I got married, before I did all that. And my eldest was 10 years old. So like they've been around for a while, they're trustworthy. Be sure and check them out. And with the framework too, if you go and do that transaction, you have the option, I believe you have the option now of having the money in your account by the next day for a small fee. Or if you just want to wait, then they'll automatically go ahead and transfer it to your checking account or savings account, however you set it up, within, I want to say, 2 business days. But it was pretty fast. And again, when I was in San Francisco and I was independently doing things, I was like, I need that money right away, to be honest with y'all. And so it was dependable enough so that, once I made the sale, then the money was in my account in a reasonable time. I think they're even faster now. Be sure and check it out. You use the link below. I get some type of credit with that. And the Square Terminal, now we're having fun. There's the Square Reader, which you have that highlighted if you're watching on Amazon. And then there's Square Terminal, which is a big terminal. And then here's another one, which is a bigger Square Reader. I like this joint. I've talked about it on the show a few times. This is what it looks like. This is actually a square reader, but there's a different term for it. Uh, contact list. Contact list. I never say the word. Contact list. So no contact. Really popular again in these pandemic times. You can see there's a little slot there. Hopefully you can see it. Yes. And then a wire. This is a traditional USB wire. I happen to have one that, well, actually, I think both of them, and they work both with PC and Mac and all those other things. So it's the USB connection. Everybody loves USB. This is called USB 3.0, just so you know, because there's a lot of other USBs that are popping up now. All right. What you do is it's really simple. You take your card, and I'm going to take one of my weather business cards. Shout out to business cards; they don't get enough love. And there's two ways to do it. You can, boy, this is awkward. Hopefully you guys can see. You can slide in here, right? Just like you do at the grocery store. Or the really cool part, you can tap it. And most of the cards, I think all my credit cards have been, and debit cards have been updated where they all have the, if you look at your card, it will have a little chip in there. Just like the chip, if you're old school like me, just like the chip that you had to, in some cases you still have to put into your, like the SIM card that you have to put into phones. You don't do that as much now, but occasionally you have to do that. It's like that. You'll see that on your card. I'm not going to show my card just for security purposes, but pretend this is the card and the chip is right there. And then you just tap it on there. So again, if you do grocery shopping like I do, grocery stores come to mind, but there's other stores that do that. Even some restaurants do that, but mostly like the grocery stores or the daily convenience kind of stores, they're getting on that. You're part of that energy. And so when I'm doing a keynote, or even something more subtle where, again, I just finished traveling, so somebody wanted a copy of, the independent, like, Bring Your Word collection, just came out. Somebody wanted a copy while I was traveling with family. I'd be like, okay, bet. Look it up, do that. Square also has these little tiny squares that are about this big. I would dig for it, but I don't want to waste the time on our live program. Where they're super tiny and they plug right into your phone, and then you can slide the card in there. But they do not do the contact list. In that case, if you do the tiny square, then you just have to slide it. So there's four ways to do it. Sorry, looks like we got our connection back. But there's four ways to connect to Square. One is using the app, which you can download for free. Type in the person's credit card or debit card number. Then you can use the little tiny square that plugs right into your phone. You can slide it. It's not contactless, but at least you don't have to punch in the numbers. The third is the Square reader, but this one is contactless. They can put the card in there, or they just tap it and it'll go through. And the last one, which is actually linked in here, is a Square terminal. That's one that looks a little bit like a cash register, so it's a little bit bigger, about the size of like an iPad. It's pretty light. It's about the size of an iPad. And that's when I've been on book tour, or when I was entrepreneur in residence over at the Toledo Lucas Public Library, when we lived over in Sylvania, Ohio. Actually, all those links to my keynotes for the entrepreneur residence are available at bringyourworth.tv. Be sure to check them out if you're interested. Then that's right. Then I was there all month doing keynotes. So I needed something a little bit heftier because I was going to be there regularly. People are going to be coming and buying books. Or more importantly, there are going to be other people that are going to be selling the books. I had to make sure they were good as far as getting involved in that. So as you can tell, I'm really excited about that. Getting a copy of, again, Company of One. I never recommended some of you on the program, and he came back and you're like, oh my God, this book is amazing. So I hope it's still being useful to you. It's a highly recommended book, one of my favorites. And join Square and get Square Terminal, which is where the link is, or get some of the smaller ones like the contactless Square Reader, which is a nice happy medium, easy to travel with. If you're going to be doing some heavy hardcore traveling, you might just want to get the tiny square one. And the tiny square one, I think, is either free when you sign up, or it costs like $10, so it's super, super cheap. But if I remember correctly, because I signed up obviously like 15 years ago, if you use this link, I think they give you a free tiny reader, so you can check that out too. All right, so today we're talking about ways that you can have more business in 2024. My name is Damon Brown. I'm an entrepreneurial coach. If you want to coach with me, be sure and check out the link below. I have a little bit of space in my roster, so come through if you think it's something that you need for the upcoming year. I'm happy to support you. And it's Bring Your Work TV. Comes on every, oops, there it is. So technology's trying to bite me today. Bring Your Work TV. I come to you, to your living room, Wednesdays and Sundays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. And yeah, how are y'all handling not even entrepreneurship, solopreneurship? And how do you want to sharpen up your blade in the upcoming year? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear.